Working to advance integrated river basin management and with a vision of clean, healthy rivers and communities around the world, the International River Foundation awards the River Prize to recognise and reward those who are realising these goals. In its 16th year, the Thiess International River Prize continues to shine a light on rivers and organisations around the world which demonstrate excellence and innovation in river restoration and protection. The International River Foundation would like to take this opportunity to thank Vera Thiess, Alec and Mary Peden, Martin Albrecht, Thiess Proprietary Limited and Brisbane City Council for their continued support and valued contribution in 2014. This year's international finalists demonstrate that a continued commitment to our rivers and communities is making a difference in a world where leadership for our environment is sorely needed. The finalists represent the vision of the River Foundation brought to life, and we congratulate them all. In 2014, the Thiess International River Prize finalists are Petitcodiac River, Canada. A remarkable campaign brought about the restoration of the Petitcodiac River, situated on the Bay of Fundy in the province of New Brunswick, Canada. In 1999, the battle to restore free flow to the Petitcodiac by opening the gates of the controversial causeway was in its fourth decade. The local community was bitterly divided, and elected officials mostly avoided getting involved or tended to side with the more affluent lobby of residents living along the 21-kilometre artificial head pond created in 1968 when the Petitcodiac Causeway was built.
There were a few events that became the catalyst for the river restoration. First of all, there became a big flooding issue in the region every time there was a significant rain event. Also, the fish had declined to such an extent that the Fisheries Act in Canada was no longer being applied.
By the year 2000, massive silt deposits covered 95% of the river near the city of Moncton and extended 35 kilometres downstream to Shipodi Bay. Between 1999 and 2013, Riverkeeper set out to reverse the situation by implementing a series of groundbreaking actions in environmental communications and environmental law enforcement. Ultimately, these efforts prevailed, leading to the end of Canada's longest environmental battle, the resolution of numerous historic pollution issues, and the commencement of North America's largest river restoration project.
The biggest challenge we overcame was to bring the community together. So there's 10 communities in the watershed. We had to build partnerships with all the communities, and we were able to get 9 out of 10 to support us. We also were able to convince the governments that these problems, historic problems, needed to be resolved.
Since the opening of the Petitcodiac Causeway gates in April 2010, hundreds of thousands of fish are now migrating yearly to the Petitcodiac. The river channel has tripled in width, and the renowned Petitcodiac tidal bore has begun its miraculous recovery. A tidal bore surfing culture has since taken root in the river. Glenelg River, Australia. Rural and urban communities in the Glenelg River Basin have rallied with landholders, conservation groups, Indigenous groups and industry to carry out what has become the biggest river fencing protection program in Australia's history. 659 property owners and community groups have helped construct 1,725 kilometres of fencing, planted more than 500,000 trees and direct seeded 796 kilometres of waterway frontage.
We've managed to achieve a coalition of agencies and NGOs and community groups and Indigenous groups and landholders who've worked very hard, and we wanted to show them all what impact they'd been having as a result of all of the works that they'd undertaken.
The restoration program has also completed almost 3,000 hectares of weed control, reinstated 870 pieces of large wood, opened close to 1,000 kilometres of the Glenelg River and its tributaries to fish movement, and established and delivered an environmental flows entitlement.
Probably the biggest challenge for this restoration project has been the scale and the dispersed nature of the problems affecting the river. It's required a large integrated, multifaceted program to address. It wasn't simply a matter of addressing 5 or 6 point sources of pollution and improving the river. We had to undertake an integrated landscape scale catchment program over 12,000 square kilometres of the catchment.
The river was at the point of ecological collapse during the mid-2000s due to low flows, poor water quality, loss of habitat and weed and carp invasion. However, as a result of an integrated works program, flows have been restored and bare gullies have been stabilised under a mantle of vegetation. The resulting river health improvements can be demonstrated by the recovery of native fish populations, which have increased by over 150% in restored reaches. The project has resulted in several native fish species extending their range by hundreds of kilometres. The project has pushed the boundaries of conventional river management, and its original and innovative approaches have drawn interest globally. San Antonio River, United States of America. As recently as the 1980s, the San Antonio River was highly polluted by inadequately treated wastewater, and the urban portion of the river was ecologically degraded due to previous decades of channelization for flood control.
The event that became the catalyst for river restoration really was when we channelized the San Antonio River. Back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, we channelized over 31 miles of the San Antonio River and surrounding tributaries in the name of flood control. While the community valued that flood control protection, they realized it came at a heavy cost.
Numerous collaborative watershed studies and projects have been implemented since then, resulting in significant water quality and ecosystem health improvements to the San Antonio River watershed. As the positive reputation of the river's successful restoration grows, the San Antonio River Authority regularly hosts foreign and domestic visitors and gives presentations regarding watershed sustainability and the San Antonio River Improvements Project. In 2010, the World Bank invited the San Antonio River Authority to speak about their work at a forum in India. In 2011, the United States Secretary of Interior commented that the Mission Reach project was leading the nation in urban ecosystem restoration, and in 2012, the San Antonio River Authority presented to the River Rally in Portland, Oregon, and the World River Forum South Korea, and the World Canals Conference, and World Canal Cities Expo in China.
Really, over the last 30 years, we have transformed the river and worked with our partners to make sure that we've improved the quality of the wastewater effluent that is discharged into the river. We've worked to make sure that we could mitigate the impact of stormwater on the water quality of our river, and we've also embarked on a major river restoration project that mitigated the impact of flood-controlled channelization that occurred on our river from about the 1950s to the 1970s.
The San Antonio River is also highlighted in the World Heritage Site nomination for 5 Spanish colonial missions that line the river. Certainly there is more work to be done, but great improvements have already been realised and reflect the dedication to river improvement as well as community engagement and a strong vision for the future of the river. River Rhine, all countries in catchment. In 1986, an horrendous blaze at the Sandoz agrochemical storehouse in Basel caused tons of pollutants to be spilled into the Rhine River. This great river system of Europe was turned blood red and almost all biological life wiped out. This disaster provided the impetus for the International Commission for the Protection of the Rhine to accelerate actions already being undertaken in managing the river.
Starting just 5 years after the Second World War, the building of trust and confidence and solidarity between the different countries was the first major challenge the ICPR faced. In addition, it had to find solutions for the increasing pollution and the environmental mismanagement of the past.
Bringing the Rhine back to life was not achieved overnight. For the best part of a century, people have worked together at the Commission to deliver river restoration, transboundary river management and cooperation. As a result of investments by the states, municipalities and industry, more than 96% of the 58 million inhabitants of the Rhine catchment are today connected to urban wastewater treatment plants, and many industrial sites dispose of wastewater via modern treatment plants.
Part of the success of the Rhine experience is the involvement of the NGOs and industry and other participants, those who give their opinions, views, which will be taken into account in organizing and designing an integrated policy in which different interests come together.
As a result, water quality has improved considerably and oxygen levels are back to normal. The chemical status of most groundwater bodies is good, and inventories show that fish species composition in the Rhine is almost complete. Due to the relocation of dikes and the deepening of river forelands in the Rhine Delta, 55 square kilometres of former floodplains along the Rhine have been regained. Along other sections of the Rhine, the security of dikes and local flood protection has been increased in order to improve the protection of goods and people. The International Commission continues to collaborate and work towards achieving its vision for the River Rhine and the species, such as salmon and eel, which call the river home. The International River Foundation congratulates all the finalists.